Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Zach D Productions here, and I am here for an album review, but this is technically a re-review because I did review this album before, but I was rather unhappy with it because, well, let's just say that I have a sort of a different opinion on it now. So for this review, I'm going to be reviewing Iron Maiden, The Book of Souls. This is the album right here, and if you know the band well enough, this is their newest album, so yeah, I figured I would talk about it, of course. Now, right off the bat, I gotta say that this album, I think, is very overhyped, and this is coming from someone who would consider Iron Maiden one of, if not maybe, my favorite band of all time. I mean, I feel like if you had to make me choose one favorite band, I would go with Iron Maiden. I mean, they're the band that I just enjoy the most consistently, and I've been a fan for a couple of years now, and since this is their newest album, it came out like a few years ago now, and I think we are kind of overdue for a new Iron Maiden album. I'm not sure when they'll get back into the studio, or if they ever will get back into the studio, because, well, there's a possibility that this could be their final album, but honestly, I hope not. I know there's people out there that say that they're fine with this being their last album, but I feel like that they could end their discography off on a better note. But not only that, I also want to be able to experience the Iron Maiden hype, because I wasn't really a fan of Iron Maiden when this album even came out, as crazy as that sounds. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm very new to Iron Maiden. Well, I wouldn't say very new, but I'm a newer fan. I became a fan around, it was either late 2016 or early 2017 I became an Iron Maiden fan. That's when I really got into them. The first album I ever heard from them was Power Slave, and that was basically the album that got me hooked. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the album, The Book of Souls. Like I said, I do think this album is rather overhyped, and I think a lot of people really give this album a lot more credit than it deserves. I know there's a lot of people that say that this is the best Iron Maiden album since the 1980s stuff, which I don't agree with at all. I mean, this is nowhere close to their 1980s stuff. Heck, I'll take it a step further. I even think the majority of Maiden's 90s stuff is even better than the Book of Souls. I know that's a rather unpopular opinion, but I don't know what it is. I feel like this album drags on for a little too long. It is a double album because, a lot of these songs are pretty long. There's a song that's like a little bit over 18 minutes or something like that. Which is the closing track, Empire of the Clouds, but we will get to that, of course. I don't know, I feel like a lot of the songs on this album feel lifeless and boring in a way. A lot of these songs really don't have much going for them, and I do think that this overall is just a very overrated record. But that's not to say that I don't think that this is a good album at all. I still think this album is technically still pretty good, but it's not one of Maiden's best, like a lot of people say it is. But I will say it's probably the second best Iron Maiden album in terms of the modern stuff. I think Maiden's best modern album would have to be Brave New World, and I think this album, for me personally, would come second. So let's go ahead and talk about the tracks. I won't be going over every single song, but if there is a song that you would like to know my thoughts on that I did not mention in this video, you can of course go ahead and let me know about that down in the comments. So the album opens up with Eternity, If Eternity Should Fail, which is a good album opener. It's not one of my favorites off this album, but it's a good song. Speed of Light is the next track. This was the lead single for the album, and you know what? It's a great song. This is definitely one of my favorites off this record. I think it's a really great track. It has a nice energy to it, a nice pace, a nice flow, and I can see why they chose it as a single. It's a really good song. And I want to skip right on over to the title track, The Book of Souls, which might be my favorite song on this entire album. I mean, this song is fantastic. I like just about everything about it. In my opinion, I think this is probably the best song that Iron Maiden has done, at least since Brave New World. This is a great song all around. I love the instrumentation. You know, everyone does a great job when it comes to the instrumentation. There's some parts in this album that do remind me of the Power Slave era, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, the drum work is great. The guitar work is great. I really like the solos in that track. There's a few solos in the second half of the song that I found very attention-grabbing. And of course, Bruce's vocal delivery in the song is great. I mean, his vocal ranges really haven't aged. I mean, he's still got it. So yeah, the Book of Souls title track, probably the best song on this album. That's my opinion. Yeah, definitely one of the best songs in Iron Maiden's modern time, I think. So let's go ahead and move on to the second half of this album. We got songs like Death or Glory, which is a good song, and then we got Shadows of the Valley, which I don't know what it is about this song, but I always thought this song was pretty underrated. I might even say that this is also one of my favorites off this album. I'm not sure what it is about this song. It does give me vibes of the album Somewhere in Time a little bit, especially in the first half of the song a little bit, with the instrumentation. So yeah, I don't know what it is about Shadows of the Valley, but I really dig the vocal work from Bruce. And yeah, I mean, I would say that this is definitely an underrated song off this album. And if you haven't listened to it in a while, I encourage you to go back and revisit it, because it's actually a really good song. And then I want to skip right on over to the closing track to this double album, Empire of the Clouds. Now, to be honest with you guys, this is kind of an unpopular opinion, but I really don't think this song is as great as a lot of people say it is. It's not a bad song by any means, but my problem with this song, it's just too long. It's just way too long of a song. It's like a little bit over 18 minutes, which is just too long, I think, for this type of song. There's things about the song that I do like, though. Like, I really like the introduction to the song. You know, I like the piano work at the beginning. The first half of this song, I think, is really good. It's really good quality, but over time, the song just, I feel like, drags on in certain parts, you know. And, you know, it's a song that you kind of want to skip, like, 5 minutes into the song. But, you know, I can understand why they chose it as an album closer, you know, as the finale of the album. I believe the song lyrically is about a historical event. I'm not really sure about that, though, so don't quote me on it, but, yeah, I think it's, you know, I like the concept of it, like, the fact that, you know, lyrically it's about, you know, a story, and, you know, some of the instrumentation is, good, like, it sounds good, but, like, again, it's just too long of a song, but I can understand why they chose this as the album closer. So, yeah, for the most part, it's a pretty good album. It's not a fantastic album like a lot of people say it is. I don't think this is one of Maiden's best albums like a lot of people say it is. Again, I don't think it's as good as their 1980s or even their 1990s work. And it blows my mind to hear that, you know, there's people out there that say that this album is even as good as some of the stuff from the 1980s, which is pretty ridiculous if you ask me. But I do think that, you know, the, I guess, opinions of the fans are changing a little bit. I think people are, I guess, ready to admit that this is not in the top 3 best Iron Maiden albums like people have been saying, you know, before. But overall, it's still a good album for what it is. I don't hate the album. There's definitely some great songs on this album. You know, and I think this album would have really worked better if they would have just made it a standard album instead of a double album. so to speak. Just taken the best songs from each disc and just pretty much made the great Iron Maiden album. Like, of course, you got to have songs like Speed of Light in there, the title track, Shadows of the Valley, and maybe even Death or Glory. Songs like those, and maybe make the album a little bit shorter or something. I don't know. But overall, I still think this is a good album for what it is, don't get me wrong, but I do think it is overhyped and overrated in the fan base. As a score, I would either give this album a 7.8 out of 10 or a light 8 out of 10. It's still a good album. There's definitely some highlights on this album that you should be able to enjoy. It's got some great solo work from the band, and yeah, it's a pretty good album overall. So yeah, but it's nowhere near one of their best, of course. So let me know what you guys think of this album if you've heard it. So thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Take care.